The scheduling phase is going to turn our lesson plan into a structured development schedule with tasks, assignments, and timelines. The only input that we need here is the lesson plan that outlines the modules and activities for our training. Here we're going to use the lesson plan record that we created in NoCodeDB to trigger the content creation process. This process will source a database of organizationally defined content creation task codes. Each activity will be assigned one or more task codes with the default bid days to complete the creation of the training content. These tasks will be output in Notion, allowing you to review and modify the tasks and go through an internal training department approval process. Once these tasks have been reviewed and approved, you'll access the workflow trigger in NoCodeDB from the lesson plan record to send these tasks to Plane, which is our project management application. Our output for this phase is a complete Plane project that mirrors the modules, submodules, activities, and task structure that we had in Notion. In Plane, you'll have the ability to schedule and assign tasks to different team members and subject matter experts. You'll also be able to visualize the content creation progress at a glance with Plane's task completion dashboards. Now, this is our last phase in our workflow where we can start building out our training in our project management application. So let's see how this is done with our AI automation. So I'm looking here at our project workspace, and just as a review of where we're at in this workflow, we have our project set up with a project details page. We have our analysis, design, topics outline, and now our lesson plan with modules, submodules, and activities. Our goal now is to create itemized tasks that we would need to build out this training. These tasks are going to be generated in Notion, and we're going to review them and then send them over to our project management application after we've approved all of those tasks. To create these tasks, the AI is going to access our vector store database of predefined task codes. NoCodeDB is where all these task codes are located and is the source we use for loading the vector store the AI is going to be using. To give you an idea of how these task codes are formatted and what the AI is going to be pulling into our workflow, you can see that we have task code names here, definition, the type the task code falls under, the type of modality if that applies, and the default bid time in hours. I want to note here that these task codes, along with the default bid days, would be set up by your learning and development team so it aligns with your organization's training needs. To kick off the automated process of creating tasks for our activities utilizing these task codes, you need to go over here to our project, scroll up to our project properties, and click on this lesson plan link. In NoCodeDB, this is the form submission we created in the lesson plan phase. We're going to use this record to trigger the next step in our workflow. So to do this, all we need to do is click the Create Tasks button. Now let's head over to Notion and see these tasks being created. So inside our project workspace, let's head down to our lesson plan, and we're going to expand that and then expand these here so we can see our tasks being added to our activities. All right, you can see that our automation workflow is kicking in and it's creating our tasks right now. All right, now those tasks have been created for us. Let's see what it's done. So right here under Embrace Who You Are, that's the submodule that we were looking at before. We have a formal activity called Discuss Personal Values. That's where the learners are going to reflect on and discuss their core personal values and how they can contribute to their workplace roles. The task that was created for us was a master class, and that is to conduct a formal session to facilitate discussions about personal values in the workplace. So that's a pretty good description, and that is a good task to assign to that. What I could do if I wanted to, I could break this down even more and say, in addition to the master class that I'm creating, the presentation and the schedule, I could say that I'm creating a slide presentation and maybe some handouts as a part of this, so I can add those as additional items. Also here, we have a writing personal mission statement. That was to follow our discussion, and this is an experiential activity where they're going to be writing their own mission statements. Here it has a workshop design, and that is to design an experiential workshop for writing personal mission statements based on individual values. And so that seems appropriate. The masterclass and workshop design both seem appropriate for those. And so I'm feeling pretty good about how it's assigned tasks to our activities. I can also tell you that these are the actual task codes that are in our database, and it's also added here on the right a descriptor. This is going to be really great when it hits our project management software to have the task code in there, and then to have a descriptor, and then to have this description. All that's going to get pulled over. In addition, you can see over here that it's pulled in the bid times in hours. That's coming from our database as well, and those are the default bid times. So you can go through all of these items, review them all, tweak them, adjust them, and once you're done with that, then you're going to be ready to send all of these tasks over to Plane, which is our project management application. So to do that, we're going to go back to our lesson plan record in NoCodeDB. And so to do that, I'm going to go up here to our project workspace, and here under the properties, I'm going to click on lesson plan. And that's going to take us to our original form submission that we use to create our lesson plan. We're going to trigger the sending of our tasks here from Notion into our project management application, which is called Plane. So to do that, all we have to do is click on this button here, send tasks to Plane. With that, let's head over to Plane and see some of this automation magic happen. All right, I've logged into my Plane app, and I can see over here in the projects, we have our project right here. So you can see that it's brought in our emoji that we were using in Notion, our background image, and it's brought in the full title right there, and also a description of the training project. So if we head over here to our work items, then we'll see here that here are all the tasks that are listed and our activities and submodules. Now, all of the work items are itemized here, but these actually have a hierarchy structure to them. So if you click on the one that we were looking at here, Embracing Who You Are, then you can see that we have writing personal mission statements and discussing our values. Those are tagged as activities to our submodule, and then you can go in here and there is our task, the writing personal mission statements workshop design. So if I head over here also to modules, then you can see we have our 3 modules that are exactly as they are in Notion. If we click on the Know Who You Are, then it's going to list all of the submodules that we have here, and it will show us that complete structure that we had there before, with the submodule activity and tasks. Once you've imported that whole structure that you had in Notion into our project management application, you can go through each one of these items and set the state of that item, the urgency level, the start or end date, and then you can assign this item to an individual on your team. You can click into one of these items here. You can see here that it's carried over the name and the description that we had in Notion. It's also going to list all of the sub items. So these are the activities, and then these are the tasks right there. You can see all the properties listed here, and then it's going to keep an active log of everything that happens with this task under this activity heading right here. So let's say I wanted to create a start date and an end date for this item. And then I can go into one of these sub items, and I'm going to create a start date and a due date for this as well. Right there. So I have the ability to be able to see all of these work items inside of this module in different layouts. This is the list layout. I can see them in a board layout where I can change the status to these, let's say in progress, and I can drag and drop these to different categories here. I can also see this in a calendar view. There's the item that we have scheduled as a due date. We can also see it in this table layout and also in this timeline view where we can live drag and move these items' due dates around. You do have the ability to customize any of these views with filters and display options, which is really great. And modules is just one way of organizing our work items. We can also organize things within cycles. Cycles in Plane are a lot like agile sprints, where you're going to define a set period of time for your team to focus on some specific tasks. So to do that, you create a cycle here, and then select the cycle that we just created. And then we can go in here and add in existing items. So I can go over here and start selecting these, and these go into this cycle. And if we were to go in now and set some start dates and end dates for some of these, then we can see how they're being displayed within the cycle here. These also have the same views as the modules, so you can see them in a board, in a calendar, table, and a timeline, so you can see them there. Now each cycle has their own dashboard view, so if we set up our cycle to have a start date and an end date here, it's going to put it in the active cycles, and we're going to get an analytics dashboard for just this cycle. On the left-hand side, we have a progress chart with the status of each of our work items. In the middle, we have a burn down chart. And then on the right-hand side, we have a way of filtering through our items based on the label, assignee, and priority. To give you a better idea of the dashboard here, I'm going to go into our tasks and set these as different statuses. And then I'm going to set them as different urgency levels and then make some assignments. So you can see here our cycle is 66%. We have 2 work items completed, 1 that has been started. We can see that these are tasks based on the labels. If we have submodules or activities assigned to the cycle, they're going to show up here with their labels. You can see who the assignees are and the priority items. Then if you have multiple cycles, you'll be able to see which are up and coming and which one have been completed down here. You do have all of the views inside of cycles and modules, but you can create custom views here that gives you a lot of flexibility. So if you create a view, then you can go over here and pick the type of view that you would like. You can filter this view by priority, the state, assignee, cycle, module, mention, created by, label, start date, and end date. So there's a lot of options there. You also have the ability to display based on property and have a sort order. So let's create that view. The ability to create unlimited custom views is really great when you're trying to track specific aspects of your project, team members, or goals. Within Plane, I can check the analytics of all of the projects that are going on. I can also go in here and check on my specific work items. These tabs up here will allow me to be able to see this in a summary view, to see what tasks have been assigned to me, which ones I've created. I can also subscribe to different tasks to make sure that I'm in the loop, and also it tracks all of my activity within the application. Inside of work items, you have the ability to tag people, and when that happens, it's going to show up here in your inbox. Last thing I'll show you is that within each of your projects, you have the ability to create documentation if you need to. You can set it as public or private. And once you create a page, you can edit that page with its own WYSIWYG editor. We've now completed our last step in our AI learning and development automation workflow. We started out with our stakeholder call where we first were acquainted with the project. We set up the project, generated an analysis, design, and outline document. We've created a lesson plan and tasks to build out our training, and then we sent all of that over to our project management application.